I've been getting requests to do my take on recipes from Food Wars for a while now, and I've gotten more requests for Soma Yukihira's Chaliapin Steak Don than any other recipe. So let's see what all the hype is about.
ステーキ肉に高塩の切り込みを入れ、叩いて伸ばす。みじん切りにした玉ねぎを肉の両面にまぶしてしばらく置く。玉ねぎを取り除いた肉に塩と胡椒で味付け。バターを溶かして肉を焼く。
No.
その焼き汁と絡めるように玉ねぎを炒める。肉の上に炒めた玉ねぎをまんべんなく乗せて完成だ。
シャリアピンステーキ!
So there are a couple of things here. Onions have proteolytic enzymes that break down protein and make the meat tender. But just piling chopped onions on meat will take forever to have any meaningful effect. Also, frying the steak in butter ain't gonna work. You want to fry the steak in oil with a high smoke point and add the butter at the end, or it's gonna burn. All right, let's see what the judges think.
なんだこれは。このコクはステーキを焼いた後のフライパンに投入した赤ワイン。残った肉汁を煮詰め、その汁で玉ねぎを炒めてある。
しかも味を整えているのは焦がし醤油や焦げをも調味料として深い味に。このほのかな酸味。
その丼のご飯は手製の練り梅を切り混ぜたさっぱり梅風味飯だ。
Okay, so there's some great ideas here. And adding ume to the rice is next level genius because the acidity is going to cut through the richness of the meat. So Soma's execution wouldn't have worked in reality, but there are some brilliant ideas here. And I think I can make a Chaliapin Steak Don in real life that's worthy of the judges' reactions. Let's start with a look at our ingredients. The first thing I did was head to my local supermarket to pick up a steak, and I got lucky and found one for half off. It's not the best looking steak in the world, but not bad for 755 yen. Seriously though, I've tested this with a bunch of different steaks, and although the onions help tenderize it, they can only do so much. So you want to start with the best cut of steak that you can afford. For our other ingredients, I'm using 2 medium onions, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, some black pepper, 1 tablespoon of vegetable oil, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, a 1/3 cup of red wine, and 2 tablespoons of cultured butter. I've also cooked 2 rice cooker cups worth of short grain rice to mix with 70 grams of low sodium umeboshi, and I have some chopped scallions for garnish. The first thing you want to do is finely dice your onions. I've got a separate video showing you the best way to do this, but to recap, you want to cut your trimmed onion in half and cut slits into it from the top towards the root end. Then you want to cut a few slits into the sides of the onion. Now you can proceed to mince it up. I'm not going to bore you with all of the onion dicing, but once you have them all chopped, throw them into a bowl and sprinkle on the salt. Then you want to mix it in. This will get the onions to release some of its liquid, which helps get the enzymes onto our steak. Okay, that should be good. So let's go ahead and make a nice bed of onions on a tray for our steak to rest in. To prep the steak, I'm going to cut some slits in it about a 1/4 inch apart and about a 1/3 of the thickness deep. This is called sujigiri, and it cuts some of the connective tissue that can make a steak tough. Then you want to flip it over and repeat the slits at the same angle. This ensures the cuts on opposite sides run perpendicular to each other so you don't risk mangling the meat. Now I'm going to set this on our bed of onions and bury it with the rest of our onions. Make sure you get a nice even layer like this. Now I'm going to cover this up and pop it in the fridge to let it rest overnight. While we wait for the onion enzymes to do their thing, I want to send a big shout out to all my supporters, especially the ones that suggested this idea. I literally wouldn't have been able to make this video without you. If you're learning something new from my recipes, there's a lot of ways to help, so hit the link in the description down below to see what you can do. Okay, it's been 24 hours, so let's see how our steak's doing. The meat is noticeably softer to the touch, so let's scrape off all of the onions. Now I'm gonna season this on both sides with black pepper. I'm not gonna use salt here because it's already gotten some from the onions. Before we fry up our steak, let's prepare the umeboshi for our rice. The first thing I'm gonna do is remove the pits from all of them. Umeboshi is often translated as pickled plum in English, but ume is actually more closely related to apricots. If you haven't had it before, it's super sour and can be pretty salty, but I'm using one that was brined in a 10% salt solution, so it's not over the top, and the tartness is gonna go great with our Chaliapin steak. Once they're all pitted, you want to use your knife to mince them up into a paste like this. To cook the steak, I'm going to add the oil to a hot pan over medium heat, and then I'm going to add in our tenderized steak. Let this fry undisturbed until it's cooked about a third of the way up the sides. This ensures you get a nice brown crust on that side. Then I'm going to flip it over and brown the second side. My steak was only about 3/4 of an inch thick, so it doesn't take long for it to get to medium rare. But if your steak is thicker, or you like it more well done, you'll want to adjust the heat down at this point to ensure it cooks through without burning. Okay, this is looking good, so I'm gonna transfer this to a plate and set it aside to rest while we work on the onions. Now I'm gonna add the onions into the pan and saute them until they're tender and translucent. The idea is to cook the onions and get a little browning on them, but you don't need to fully caramelize them. This took me about 6 minutes. Once the onions are looking like this, I'm gonna add the soy sauce and fry it together with the onions until there's no liquid left and it just starts to burn to the pan. This was one of Soma's genius ideas because it gives the onions a mouth-wateringly toasty and complex aroma. Now we're gonna deglaze the pan with the red wine. This just means we're using the liquid to dissolve any beef, soy sauce, and onion flavor that's clinging to the pan. Once the wine has been reduced and no longer smells like alcohol, I'm gonna add the butter and whisk it into the sauce. The milk proteins in butter help the liquid and fat in the sauce to form an emulsion, which thickens the sauce while making it beautifully rich and creamy. It's really important here to get the butter mixed with the sauce before the fat has a chance to separate out though, which is why you need to mix this vigorously. Okay, this is ready to go, so let's cut the heat and work on our rice. I've got some freshly cooked rice here, and I'm gonna go ahead and add our minced umeboshi and fold it into the rice. By the way, ume gohan is delicious turned into onigiri, so that's another way you can enjoy this if you end up with leftovers. Once the umeboshi is evenly distributed, I'm gonna portion the ume gohan into a donburi. Then I'm gonna slice up our steak. As you can see, the steak isn't leaking all over the cutting board because we gave it a chance to rest. This allows the wound up proteins to relax a bit, which lets them reabsorb some of the fluids that they squeezed out while cooking. Now I'm gonna line up the sliced steak over the rice. And just look at how juicy and tender these are. Then I'm gonna pile our onion sauce into a mountain on top of the steak. And as a finishing touch, I'm gonna sprinkle on some scallions. And our Yukihira style Chaliapin Steak Don is done.
All right, let's give this a try. Itadakimasu. Oh man, it looks so good. And it smelled amazing while we're making it. All right, let's get some of that beef with the onions and the rice. Oh man. The meat just melts into your mouth, and those onions are buttery and rich, and that tangy rice underneath creates this really nice contrast that makes you just want to go back and forth forever. So the cooking techniques in that episode may not have been real, but I think the judges' reactions were. Oh.
If you enjoyed this and want to see me do more Food Wars dishes in real life, let me know by giving this a big thumbs up, and don't forget to leave a comment down below with your suggestions. Also, it would really help me out if you could share this with all your friends who might enjoy it. Alright, I think I need to go work out now, but check out this playlist for more donburi ideas, and I'll catch you in the next one.